तत्परम्पर्याय विद्महे ज्ञानलिङ्गेश्वराय धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयात्। ओम योग महर्षि डॉक्टर स्वामी गीतानंद गिरी गुरु महाराज की जय। So, this session of our scintillating Saturday morning sessions is focused on a topic that is often a hot topic, and that is Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra, which is the sleep of the yogis. The sleep of the yogis is an interesting statement. It could also be understood as that state of yoga, which is a state of going into a divine sleep. It is said that Lord Mahavishnu is reclining on Ananta Sheshnag, and he is in Yoga Nidra. That Mahavishnu himself, the principle, the universal principle of conservation, sustenance, maintenance, that principle is lying, which means it is based on Ananta. Ananta means that which is infinite. So infinity supports the principle of conservation and sustenance. And a beautiful state of Yoga Nidra is the state of Lord Mahavishnu. That preserver principle, the conservatory principle of sustenance, is manifesting in the divine state called Yoga Nidra. What is yoga? Yoga is both the process and the state. The process that takes us to the state, as well as the state of oneness. A state of oneness, an Advaita Sthana, where there is no more duality. It is only in duality that friction occurs. It is only in duality that discrimination occurs. It is only in duality that the struggle occurs. In oneness, there is no struggle. In oneness, there is no friction. In one, there is no discrimination. That state of oneness is the state of yoga. A state where one is in the highest possible level of consciousness. This level of consciousness has been described in Indian culture as Turiya Avastha. It is said that we are in the wakeful state, Jagrat. We go into dream sleep. The dream sleep, which is Nidra, where the Swapna occurs. And you see all your Swapna Sundaris, your dream girls or boys or whatever you see. Swapna. You then go into Shushupti, the deepest of the sleep. But then there is a state, a beautiful state called Turiya, which is beyond this, the fourth state. And that is the state where you are aware of awareness itself, as Swami Gitananda Giri used to say. It is a stage where you are having the highest experiences, but you are still manifesting what needs to be manifest in this world. When we talk about Shushupti, we are talking about a state where we are one with the universe. Adi Shankara reminds us, Shushupteka Siddha, Tadeko Vashishta Shiva Kevaloham. In that state of Shushupti, what happens is you are realizing that oneness. So every time we go to sleep, we have 90-minute cycles of rapid eye movement and non-rapid eye movement sleep. The rapid eye movement is the dream sleep. Non-rapid eye movement, NREM, is the non-dream sleep, and that is Shushupti. And we have these cycles, and it is during the Swapna is just a dream. It is like the day-to-day life. Like you are in Jagrat, you will have all the responses going on in your body, the physiological responses. A tiger chasing you in real life and a tiger chasing you in a dream or rather a nightmare. has a similar physiological response. But in Sushupti, you have transcended the dream state. And that is the state where you become one. It is that state of Sushupti, you become one with the universe. You connect with your own universality. And that connection that you make is an experience which is being had by you, but in a passive, unconscious manner. Every time you have a good night's sleep with Sushupti in abundance, you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed. Why you feel refreshed? Because the whole night you have spent many, many moments where you have connected with the universe and recharged your own energy center. What is our energy center? Nabhi Chakre Manipura. This navel center, the Nabhi Chakra is the connection. The Manipura is our energy center, our solar panel that connects us as a solar being to the solar system in which we exist. So this Nabhi Chakra is the key to connecting to the psychic umbilical cord which connects us to the universal mother, Prakriti. It is said that this navel center, the Purusha Suktam tells us, Nabhyam Asi Antariksham. From the navel manifests the space, Antariksham, the space that lies between Bhu and Swa. Bhu, Bhuva, Swa. Between the Bhu and the Swa is the Antariksham, the space that exists. That space comes from the navel center. This navel center, if you look at Lord Vishnu in his Shayanasana, where he is lying down, he is in Yoga Nidra, and from his navel comes out the lotus on which manifests Lord Brahma, the creative principle. Because the creative principle can only occur when sustenance is okay. If you are worried about when you will get your next meal, you are going to be running around more than trying to create anything. And that is why Vishnu has to be there. There has to be a stable maintenance going on so that creativity can sprout. And from the navel, the creativity. That is why the navel center, this Nabhi Chakra, this Manipura is your center of creativity. Power, passion, motivation, creation is all the Nabhi. And that is why the physical creation is also through the Nabhi, the umbilical cord that connects the mother to the baby, through which the whole baby is created. And that is why if you want to understand how you are arranged, your system arrangement, your blueprint, Patanjali is so clearly, that Maharishi Patanjali tells us so beautifully. Nabhi Chakre Kaya Vyuha Jnanam. You can understand the arrangement of your whole existence through contemplating the Nabhi Chakra in Samyama, Vibhudipada. The Nabhi Chakra is connected to the universe. And this is why this is the central focus in the Yoga Nidra as taught in the Gitananda tradition. Yoga Nidra is often treated as any other relaxation, a segmental relaxation from toes to nose or nose to toes, and relaxing different parts with a nice focus on the breath or with some imagery. And that is all nice as a relaxation practice. But Yoga Nidra in the yogic scheme was not meant to be another relaxation. There are enough relaxation practices. Yoga Nidra was meant to be a technique through which you could experience that universal oneness that you have when you have Sushupti in sleep, but have it in a conscious way. Because the yogis said, you experience Sushupti, and in Sushupti you experience that oneness. Sushuptau nirastati shunyatmakatva. You have all that experience. In Sushupteka siddha tadeko vashishta, as Adi Shankara tells us. So the yogis said, in Sushupti you experience that oneness. In Sushupti you experience that oneness. But it is passive oneness. It is unconscious oneness. And the yogis said, we want to be conscious about it. We want to actively experience that oneness with the universe. And hence, Yoga Nidra as a technique came into existence. Not to relax your toes and nose. We already have. In the Shavasana, there are numerous practices you can do. Swamiji, in Yoga Step by Step, and for those who don't know about it, when Swamiji gifted it to me, he wrote upside down. He wrote upside down. The book starts at the other end. And he wrote upside down when in 1991, I started officially studying with him as a student. To my beloved son Ananda on my 85th Janmashtami festival, that year it was July 26, 1991. In this monumental Yoga Step by Step, a correspondence course that has been offered by the ashram for the past 50 years, and I'm contemplating offering it online with some sessions soon. Let us see if it manifests. In that, Swamiji places Yoga Nidra as lesson 50. Now I must remind you, 52 lesson training in the ancient art and science of classical Ashtanga Yoga, and lesson 50 is where Yoga Nidra is placed by Swamiji. I think he's giving us a message. There are many practices you can do, and he puts it along with the polarity practices. And I've already talked about this in my 108 sessions. Yoga polarity, which he starts in lesson 47. After the Savitri, Savitu, all the solar rhythms. So the polarity practices, and what is this polarity? Polarity is basically the balance. The balance between the positive and negative aspects. Between the two equal and opposite aspects of your existence. That can be considered the Loma Viloma, the Prana, the Apana, the Ha and the Ta. All of that is a balance. The balance that you are finding between the opposites. Maharishi Patanjali tells us, Tato Dvandva Anabhigata. The Dvandvas, the two twos are transcended in the state of asana, which is a state where you are established firmly in your own Sukhasthanam, your point where you are at ease with yourself. Finding that point where you are established, stable, and at ease with yourself. Inner stability in the eye of the storm. So, when we talk about Yoga Nidra in the Gitananda tradition, do not take it to be another relaxation technique. And most of the Yoga Nidra taught worldwide is as a relaxation technique, which for us is called Marmanastanam Kriya. And I have depicted this in the last few sessions of my 108 series. Marmanastanam Kriya is where you are actively relaxing different components of your body parts, 22 parts of your body from the toes to the forehead. You are segmentally and sequentially relaxing them consciously. That is Marmanastanam Kriya, which has become Yoga Nidra in most places with a lot of visual imagery. Imagery is nice. I have nothing against imagery. But imagery is not Yoga Nidra. Imagery is imagery. Okay. Think you are in the sky, you are the eagle, you are the flower, you are the sun, you are the moon, you are the trees. Very nice to keep your mind busy. To actively focus the mind, it is very nice. And they are useful for people. Just as Yogapati is useful for some people, it is useful. But actual Yoga Nidra needs to connect you to the source. If you are not connected to your universal source in a state of oneness, it is not Yoga Nidra. Because the yogis said, we need to sleep to get Shushupti, to have that oneness. Why not have that oneness when we are awake also? In that state of Jagrat, can I have that state of Shushupti in Jagrat itself? That was the idea behind this type of practice. I will read out a few words here from Swamiji's lesson 50 on page 251 of the correspondence course. Yoga Nidra, psychic sleep, the sleep of the yogis. Sanskrit, and I must remind you, Sanskrit is the technical language of the science of yoga. Sanskrit has a number of words for sleep, the most common being swapna, shushupti, or nidra. But in both yoga and Vedanta, the descriptive word for sleep indicates a state of consciousness while in sleep rather than the simple act of sleeping. So not just sleeping, but a state of consciousness while you are asleep. And when you are sleeping, all your brain waves are going on. The alpha, beta, delta, theta, all these are going on. Okay. That is what we analyze when we do sleep studies. People don't realize that. And Maharishi Patanjali also tells us Nidra. He talks about Nidra. He says Nidra is a Chitta Vritti. Now Chitta Vrittis are neither bad or good. Chitta Vrittis are the activities of the subconscious, unconscious mind, and sleep is one of those activities. Nidra is one of the activities of the Chitta. And it is more of a tamasic activity because most of the time when you are asleep, you don't know about it. It is a very, very important concept to keep in mind that when Patanjali uses Nidra as a Chitta Vritti, it is implying a dull, tamasic, tamo, guna is predominant in that. And many people, while they are awake, also are sleeping, sleepwalking through life in a fugue state, zombie. We all, with all our Zoom meetings, have become zombies now. Death by webinar is the next thing you will hear in the times of COVID-19. Patanjali also tells us Swapna Nidra Jnanalambadamba. He actually tells us that through the contemplation of the Swapna Nidra, that is the sleep with the dreams, you start to analyze what is lying below it. Sleep analysis, dream analysis. Go to the depth of your subconscious, unconscious to understand what is there. And that helps your mind to become clear. In his concepts of how you can make the mind clear, attain a clarity of mind like a crystal. But here we are using it in a different term. In the philosophical cum metaphysical sense, Swapna describes a state of sleep in which dreams appear. And this is where we are talking about the rapid eye movement. And different states, we go through different stages of sleep. And what is happening is that as we start to fall asleep, the muscles relax, the eyes droop, eyes begin to roll from side to side. And what happens is that you start to go through this whole process where you actually are experiencing a dream, and so your eyes are following it. That's why it's called rapid eye movement. Then you come into this state called Swapna, which is a non-REM sleep. That is the state where you are not dreaming anymore. You have transcended the dreaming state. It is in this non-REM sleep where you actually are healing and recuperating. The healing process is not occurring when you are dreaming. Because when you are dreaming, you are utilizing energy expenditure just as if you are awake. When you are in the non-dream sleep, that is where in Shushupti, you are conserving energy and going into an anabolic process of recuperation, rehabilitation, and healing. And that is why what happens is that the concept of going into Shushupti without going to sleep. And that is why we want to go into that. So Swamiji has said that Yoga Nidra, or the conscious sleep, it sounds like a oxymoron, conscious sleep. People talk about the lucid state. Yoga Nidra, or conscious sleep, is a yogic state of deep relaxation where the body restfully gains all the benefits of sleep, but is instead in deep yoga relaxation. So what is happening is you are consciously putting yourself into such a deep state of relaxation that you are connecting. And you are having that experience of Sushupti, but you are not sleeping because you are awake. This is what we are trying to do here. And the mind is alert and awake, but is not concerned with the surroundings. The sensory afferent impulses are registered, but the efferent motor response is limited. The mind contemplates itself, and the fourth stage of awareness itself is present. You are even starting to tap into a little bit of the Turiya also. Turiya is that state of awareness. Now Swamiji has said that this can be done in different ways. One is the sitting and one is the lying down. And he says that it can be done lying down back supine in Shavasana, or sitting upright in a meditative yoga position like Sukhasana, Siddhasana, Ardha Padmasana, Padmasana, or even Vajrasana. The spine must be kept aligned and erect, arms and shoulders relaxed, hands folded over the lap, palms turned upwards, with the right hand over the left. Bhairava Mudra. And by doing this, he says the pranic energy dissipated off the palms of the hands is emanated back into the second and third chakra by this position. When you do the position of the Bhairava Mudra, the energy is brought back into the second and the third. The Swadhisthana and the Manipura start to get recharged when you do the Bhairava Mudra. If sitting, always face to the north. If lying down, head should be to the north and feet to the south. I've often talked about this in many of my sessions. Spread out a clean sheet or blanket and lie down. If there's any danger of being interrupted, cover the entire body. And you have to set a stage for going into deep relaxation and rest. You are tapping into the deepest state. And any possibility of an outside disturbance should be removed as much as you can. Because to be called out of this deep relaxation by incessant telephone ringing or doorbells, door knocks or loud noises can be psychically dangerous. People don't realize when you are deep in this relaxation, you jar your whole nervous system by that. Hence, put your phone on silent or put off the doorbell or get into a place where people won't disturb you. Now, Swamiji then talks about the concept of Yoga Nidra here. He says, there are a number of forms of Yoga Nidra taught in India today. Now in the world, even more forms. Most of them are inventions of the particular teacher giving the technique. And they are all inventions of the particular teacher. And then he talks about what is the classical variation that is passed down in the tradition. I'm going to talk about the technique a bit here. And then I'll come back to some explanation. You are going to stretch out in the back supine position like Shavasana, head to the north, feet to the south. Begin a conscious polarity breath like Savitri Pranayama in a count of 8-4-8-4. 8-4-8-4 is a fourth ala. The breath is taken in and out for the 8, held in and out for the half the time, 4. You practice this rhythmic breath until a semi-relaxed state can be there. Then center your consciousness into Manipura chakra or the solar plexus. You'll remember I started off saying that this is the seat that connects us and this is the seat through which you connect to the creative principle. Let the breath take on its own pattern, and now you concern yourself with directing a particular energy flow at this area. The solar plexus is taken as a concentration point, a bindu for the dharana. So a bindu dharana occurring at the solar plexus. Now this is as small as the point of a pin point. And that is the smallest point you can think of as a bindu. That is what you are contemplating at the solar plexus, at the nabi. Now you need to imagine. Now Swamiji has used the word imagine. often we use the word visualize. Now, the moment you say imagine and visualize, people think you are doing something that is not real. And that is the danger with language and its expression. We need to understand here that what we are talking about is an experience of the energy. You are guiding the energy. It is not really imagine. We are using this term as a figure of speech. But it is not imaginary. It is not something unreal that you are imagining. These energies are as real as anything else. When Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was asked by Swami Vivekananda, at that time called Narendranath, do you see God? Ramakrishna answered to him, I see God as just as I see you, as real as I see you, I see God. In modern times, such a person would be locked up in a mental institution. These energies are as real as anything else. The energies of the prana circulating in you are as real as your toes and nose. But because your sensory apparatus is unable to perceive it, we say this is unreal. Now if I say imagine you are an eagle flying high in the sky, that is imagination. If I say visualize that an elephant is standing on top of your head, that is visualization and imagination. But when we are talking of these energies, we are actually experiencing how the mind can guide these energies that are real and guide them to flow in us. So what we are doing, so whenever we are using the word imagine, don't think of it as something that is not real. So here what you do is that you start to focus on a concentration point of energy in the solar plexus as minutely small as a pinpoint, and begin to imagine the energy flowing clockwise. Again, the key word here is clockwise. You are the clock. So, just as in the clock it moves, you have to move. The hands of the clock moving, you are the face of the clock, the hands are moving clockwise. It is not outside clockwise, it is your own clockwise, clockwise in you. Let this energy slowly spiral outward in ever increasing size. So what we are doing is from that pinpoint we are going to be increasing. So you are circling it, circling it, circling it, circling it, and it's becoming bigger and bigger. Now as it becomes bigger and bigger, you are taking it outwards until it is larger than the top of the head and the soles of the feet. Okay? So what you are doing is there are concentric circles spiraling outwards. The concentric circles of energy of prana are spiraling outwards from the Manipura, that pinpoint. The pinpoint becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and you are now at a point where you will be about 6 inches above the top of the head, 6 inches below the bottom of the feet. That is the point you are going up to. Be very slow and methodical in this spiraling outwards. And in this you go step by step, outer circling by first centering on a pin point size at the solar plexus. Swamiji is going to explain this and I will come into this in a few moments. Why 6 inches above, 6 inches below? There are 6 under chakras, 6 pinda chakras, making 12 chakras. That is why 6 and 6 making 12. That is why you have the 12 zodiac signs. That is why you have the 12 months of the year. The 12 number is related to so many aspects, and even our own constitution of the body, Dwadasha Krama are there, which include prana, manas, chitta and all that, and the chakras and all, along with the sapta dhatus, navadushya and all that. This is very similar to the concept that when we talk of the Purusha Suktam, one of the Vedic literature, we talk about how the Purusha is being the manifestation of the universe through the Purusha. So this Purusha that is manifesting in the universe, it is said, 1 part creates the universe and 3 part remains beyond, and that the Purusha transcends the manifest universe by Dashangulam, 10 angula. There's actually a concept like this. So here what we are talking about is the 6 inches we are talking above the head and 6 inches below the head. We are talking about transcending the physical existence and connecting to the cosmos. I'll take 1 second here because Tamil Sengolan and Terry are reminding me what I have known for the last 5 months is that when I do these videos, it's always mirrored on Facebook, then I reverse it and put it on YouTube. My phone, the OnePlus 6, doesn't allow a video to be directly taken without mirroring. That is why this problem. And so that is why when I'm saying clockwise and I'm moving clockwise, you may think of it the different way. And definitely, yes, we have so many ignorant students in the world that people will say, yes, Dr. Ananda did it like that without realizing the mirroring. So thank you, Sengol, for pointing that out. Always clockwise. That's why I use the words to explain it along with this. You are the face of the clock and the clock is moving. The hands of the clock are moving. Just as the hands of the clock move, you are the face and the energy is moving. Okay? Left to right is the concept. That is why Pradakshina is from left to right. Is the movement that is there. Left to right is the concept. Okay. Now, Swamiji has described this in very great detail. The first is you imagine, again the word imagine, okay. Contemplate is how nowadays, now this was written by Swamiji in the 70s, when people had not converted these words into what they mean today. So nowadays I like to use the word contemplate, guide, focus, be aware, feel, experience. These are words that I use when I'm teaching this personally. So contemplate the circle to be no bigger than the top of a thimble. Now this is a small size you are talking about here. Then as big as the rim of a teacup. This is actually how Swamiji has described it. Then it is as large as a saucer. So what you are doing is from a pinpoint, all of this is at the navel center. Pinpoint, slowly that circle is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So you are starting and then you are going circular, 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 circular. And you are becoming bigger and bigger. It is a concentrating. It is concentric spiraling outwards, though we call it circular. Now it grows as large as a dinner plate, and at this point Swamiji describes that it is between the rib cage and the pelvis. So this xiphisternum, which is the point here of the rib cage, between this and the pubic, now is as big as this. Then you increase the spiral until it is at mid-chest and below the pubic region. Then the lower neck and the middle thighs. Then the chin and the shin. It's nice to remember that. Chin and the shin. This is to give you an idea where that should be. Then the eyebrows at the top and the ankles below. Then you go until it is the top of the head and the soles below. And then continue the spiraling upwards until 6 inches above the head and 6 inches below the feet. This is where you stop. This is where you stop. Okay? The point 6 inches above, 6 inches below. As I said, this is where you are transcending the physical, moving into the metaphysical. You are moving from the physical to the quantum. You are moving from the individual to the universe. The pinda to the anda. This is where the transcendence is occurring. And this is where Shushupti occurs. As long as you are caught in the individual, Shushupti cannot occur. When you let go of the individual and you become the universal, Shushupti occurs. So it is letting go of the small I to merge into the big I. You are letting go of the drop to become the ocean. That is the type of experience that is being induced in this process. Stop at the point 6 inches above the top of the head and maintain this point in conscious relaxation for a period of 30 seconds to 3 minutes. Having a sankalpa, this is where you constantly have to remind yourself to remain awake and aware, but you want to enjoy this state. You don't want to go to sleep. Now here the danger is people go to sleep at this point. This is where you don't want to go to sleep. You want to stay awake and experience that Shushupti-like feeling. Now after that you start to reverse the spiral. Now it is anti-clockwise. Back through all the 10 preceding stages, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to the beginning pinpoint of the solar plexus. So here, starting 6 inches above and 6 inches below, then top of the head and the soles, the eyebrows and the ankles, the chin and the shin, the neck and the middle thighs, the mid-chest and the below the pubis, the lower part of the rib cage and the upper part of the pubis, the plate, the saucer, the teacup, and then finally a thimble. Very beautiful. So here, what I want you to get up to this point is that the whole basis is focusing on the solar plexus, the Nabhi Chakra, Manipura Chakra. This is the whole focus. Why Nabhi Chakra? Why Manipura Chakra? It is our psychic umbilical cord connecting us to the universe. So there is already a psychic connection. That connection is not in the top of your head, not in your nose, and not in your toes or your fingers. It is that Manipura. That is why the physical umbilical cord is also located there. The physical umbilical cord is a physical correlation of the energy connection. Physically, the umbilical cord is connecting the physical baby to its physical mother. The psychic umbilical cord of Manipura Chakra, Nabhi Chakra, is connecting us as a child of the universe with our universal mother. And that is why when you do this practice, focusing from here, you are expanding your consciousness and then coming back. It is like the expansion and contraction of the universe is happening. The expanding and contracting universe, the Shpanda Nishpanda, that is part of the universe. The inhalation and the exhalation, the inhalation, exhalation, inhalation, exhalation, that is the type of movement that is happening. And this is exactly what is happening in your heart. Systole, diastole is happening in your heart also. This is what you are experiencing. So what you are doing, you are expanding from the individual. The Manipura is the center where the Atma enters at birth with the first breath of life. And then it is distributed to wherever it has to go in your body for the sake of this existence. This is the center of the Jiva. This is the center of the Jiva. Swamiji used to say the Jiva has to be here. You have to be connected to the solar system. That is why ha is here, where you connect to the universe. That connecting, this is our solar panel. We are a solar energy being. Solar panels here connecting to the solar. That is why we need to connect to the sun. The sun, the visible aspect of the universe that is manifesting. So what are you doing? You are with your consciousness, with the power of choice, which is the superpower of being human. The power of choice is the superpower of being human. And what are you doing? You are choosing to expand from that minute single point which you think you are. Me. You are expanding outwards in consciousness until you have expanded into the conscious universe itself. 6 inches above, 6 inches below. Anda Chakra, Pinda Chakra. The Anda Charachara has opened up. You have opened up into that consciousness of the universe itself. From that minute point which you think you are. I am me. You realize what you are. That drop, what is a drop? A single point. And it expands into the ocean. That is the infinite. That is why Yoga Nidra of Vishnu is occurring on Ananta. Ananta is infinity. This whole universe is infinite. You are connecting to that infinite universe and stopping to be limited to, oh, me. That is the connection being made here as you expand out into the universe. But then what is happening? You are out in the universe. Now what is happening? That universe is coming into you. So when you come back and spiral back, You are coming back and you are centering in that same space of yourself, but now you are the drop that contains the whole ocean. When you expand outwards, you are having that experience that I am the drop, and you are realizing I am not a drop, I am this ocean. This is the expansion. And then when you come back, the whole ocean is in you. And now when you come back, you are an expanded individual who understands that in your individuality lies the potential of the whole universe. That is the experience of Yoga Nidra. Not just relaxation. You will feel relaxed. That's a different story. But are you connected to the universe? After all this so-called Yoga Nidra, you are not connected because you are just relaxed. Nice relaxation. Yoga Nidra is meant to connect you to the universal source of what you experience in Shushupti. And what is in Shushupti? You lose your individuality. There is no dream. As long as you are awake, there is you. As long as you are in dream, there is you. In Shushupti, there is no you as a separate existence. And that is what you are experiencing in the Yoga Nidra. The non-you experience. But now when you come back, you are not stopping there. You are coming back to where you are. You are bringing the universe. The individual is expanding into the universal. And then the universal is coming and condensing into the Bindu. The Bindu is the condensation of that universal vibration. That universal vibration of Nada is now condensing into the Bindu, and that point that now you have come back to, that point contains everything in it. And you have become an individual who understands you are not a separate entity, you are the universe itself. And that is why the practice of Yoga Nidra enables you to transcend Jagrat, Swapna, and even Shushupti to then become a being who is in a state of Turiya. That awareness of awareness itself manifests every moment of your life. It percolates into everything you do, your thought, word, and deed. That is when it becomes the Nidra of the yogis. Here, Swamiji says, when you come back, here, he says actually go even more deep. When one enters the solar plexus, now this is on the return journey. The manifestation spiral and the involution spiral that we have talked about in our Yantra Navangam classes. One is the manifestation spiral, one is the involution spiral. And you are having both those spirals. Here, when you enter the solar plexus, now the reverse anti-clockwise spiral is tightened down like a wood screw being turned into soft wood by a screwdriver. You are establishing a stability of the individuality that now contains with it a conscious experience of universality. You are not becoming any the lesser. You are still that universal entity. But now you are in an individual form. And you realize you are a spirit experiencing through the physical body. At this point, Swamiji says, the deepest state of Yoga Nidra begins. The rest of it was the process. Now what is happening? The result. I always say, yoga techniques. Yoga techniques are somato-psychic in mechanism. Yoga techniques are somato-psychic in mechanism and psychosomatic in benefit. You are using the lower, the soma, to affect the psyche. What are you doing? You are doing this, you are using the mind and the body to do this experience. That is the somato-psychic mechanism that is happening. The somato-psychic mechanism that is happening is then resulting in the psychosomatic blessing, the psychosomatic benefit, that is the blessing. At this point, the deepest state of Yoga Nidra begins. Simply enjoy this cosmic stage of relaxation. Just enjoy it. Just be aware. Body sensations will return just over 12 minutes, and then you can begin stretching, rolling the limbs, the neck and head, and finally the torso and the body. And then to come up, coming back as we normally do, raising the left arm, rolling over to the left heart side, coming up onto the hands and knees before coming back to either the sitting or standing that you're doing. A brief pause in the crawling or the heel sitting position is done if you're going to stand up to avoid dizziness. You know, when we are talking of this is an image that is there, and I've often shared this image of that spiraling. You can see the spiraling out and then we retrace it back. This is the image that Swamiji had created late 60s, early 70s when the course was put together. And I have offered this whole practice as an audio. It's on YouTube, an audio where I guide the person through this. I just want to, then he goes on to talk about other variations, 1 and 2, and he talks about how you can put it into a sequence. I'm not going to go into that today because that itself is very deep. But then Swamiji uses a few more words that he mentions here, and I'm going to come to that because today I wanted to really express this because so much of nonsense going on in the name of yoga and yoga nidra. So much nonsense in the name of yoga and yoga nidra. And so much of make-believe stuff that has no spiritual connotation at all. And people just create what they want. There has to be a very, very clear rationale behind what you are doing. You know, something as simple in the Gitananda tradition as when you do the Shavasana. Because everything in Gitananda tradition is energy based. Everything is energy based. The way you sit, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you turn, everything is energy based. And so when we lie down in Shavasana, we lie down with the head to the north, feet to the south, and we keep the heels together. So the heels are kept together. Most people when they teach Shavasana, it's the heels apart, the feet apart. See, this feet apart is very nice as a physical relaxation, no doubt. So people enjoy it because for them Shavasana is just a physical relaxation. But Shavasana is an energy experience. And when you keep your heels together, you create a closed circuit of energy in the whole body that is invigorating you even as you are lying down in Shavasana. So it may not be as physically relaxing as keeping your legs and hands out and sprawling across the yoga hall, but energy-wise, it is uplifting your whole energy when you do it that way. The hands are by the side, not too far out, just by the side, and the heels are kept together so that the energy on the right and left, the prana and apana, can start to balance itself properly, creating a state of balance even when you are doing Shavasana. When you have the head to the north, feet to the south, you are aligning with the electromagnetic energies of this planet. We are a small magnet within a big magnet. And the small magnet, if it's put into the field of a big magnet, aligns itself with that magnet. And all of these practices are energy practices. So they need to be aligned. You don't just lie down anyway. I tell you, one of the things that really irritates me when I travel teaching is I go to yoga sessions where there are 50 people in the class lying in 50 different directions for Shavasana. Even aesthetically, that is a mess. Individual freedom. To hell with that. Seriously. You lie down any way you want and you call it Shavasana? I tell you, you will not find that happen in any of the Gitananda tradition classes. We'll have people all lying down in the same direction. As much as possible, head to the north, feet to the south. It doesn't matter whether it's Australia, New Zealand, or whether it's America, Canada, Brazil, or, Ethiopia. It doesn't matter where it is. This whole idea at the end of the class, I just see it and I'm like, it looks weird. It doesn't even make for a good photo. It doesn't even make for a good photo. Everybody in whatever direction they want. When people don't understand it, what you can do is you can do it in a very nice way, diplomatic way. See, the teacher always sits in the north, the students in the south. This is the way the energy flows in teaching. Dakshinamurti Shiva is in the north, facing south. So what we try to do is make sure that as much as possible I'm sitting in the north. The other option you have is east, north and east. These two, because east is the sun. Sun is also considered the epitome of the Guru spirit. So if you are sitting in the north, what I do is I tell people I don't want to look at your feet. So will you all place your feet away and your head towards me? And you get people lined up. This whole idea that I can do anything I wish and yet I should get the benefit. I think it is totally anti-yogic. It is anti-yogic. This whole concept of energy, we are an energy being. We are an energy being. Electromagnetic flux we have in us. We are a small magnet in this planet. We need to align to it. And this is why in tradition, the teacher would always be in the north, the student in the south. The energy can flow. The north is considered head. South is considered feet. And you align yourself. Now many people say, oh my God, only dead bodies are placed with the head in the north and feet to the south. Yes. So in Shavasana, what are you trying to be? A disco dancer? In Shavasana, you are trying to be a dead body. You want to simulate the experience of death without dying. That is what Shavasana is. Shavasana is a simulatory technique to experience death without having to die for it. So you have to put yourself into a position that looks as if you are dead. Otherwise, you are doing the disco dancer posture. Crisscross apple sauce, as somebody called Padmasana in the USA. You're doing something else. You want to experience what a tree feels. You go into Vrikshasana. You want to experience what a fish feels. Do the Matsyasana. These are simulatory techniques. These are simulation techniques. The yogis were the first simulators. They said we want to simulate that experience, not stimulate. Simulate, which means to have that experience of what it is. You want to simulate the experience of death, which is the final relaxation, the final let go. That is why Shavasana is there. Not so that you can, have 10 minutes off in the class while your students are lying down. We really need to regain our equipoise here. We really need to regain our equipoise. In the Yoga Nidra, the concept of spiraling out and spiraling back is that Spanda Nishpanda. That concept of the expanding and contracting universe. That concept of the universe breathing in and breathing out. And in that you are experiencing what happens as each cell in your body. You remember Patanjali said, Nabhi Chakre Kaya Vyuha Jnanam. If you want to understand your whole systemic arrangement, focus on the Nabhi Chakra. So when you are doing this practice, you are bringing that universal consciousness into every cell of your body. Because this Manipura is the energy source that then spreads the energy to every other part of the body. And the universal energy, the universal consciousness starts to manifest in every cell. Not just you as you, every cell starts to have that feeling of being a universal entity. That is what the Yoga Nidra is for. Swamiji then goes on to describe a few things, and he actually mentions here how Yoga Nidra affects the body, mind and psyche. When the polarity like breath is done, the cells of the body regain the polarity and subsequent electrolyte balance. When the mind is centered in the solar plexus, it is centered at the seat of the Atman, the cosmic life of the individual. When this Atmic force moves with the prana in a clockwise pattern, it disturbs the habit pattern of the nervous system by cutting across 12 nerve fields that emanate outwards from the solar plexus like the numbers on the face of a clock. I'm going to repeat that, okay? When the mind is centered in the solar plexus, it is centered at the seat of the Atma, the cosmic life of the individual. This is the Jivatma. When this Atmic force moves with the prana in a clockwise direction, it disturbs the habit pattern. These are the samskara and vasana patterns that are holding us back to the individuality. So these patterns of the nervous system are broken by cutting across 12 nerve fields that emanate outwards from the solar plexus like the numbers on the face of a clock. That is why the sun has 12 names. The positive energy flow of Yoga Nidra breaks up the old negative habit patterns, aligning the Panchakosha, the 5 bodies of man, and allowing an elevated psychic state to exist. Not only are there psychic benefits from the Yoga Nidra, but very physical benefits as well. The 20 minutes to half an hour that it takes to do the Yoga Nidra Kriya is equal to 8 hours of sleep. Sleep is nature's way of repairing the body. During sleep, the catabolic destructive cellular process is at the lowest point, while the anabolic regenerative processes of cells is at the highest level. Yoga Nidra produces high cellular repair of an anabolic nature, as well as reviving the healthy function of the entire nervous system. If one is doing Yoga Nidra regularly, the normal sleep time could be lessened. One should not think they have become a victim of insomnia or a victim of the quirks of the neurotic. Be aware of the heightened awareness state and the extra time now available for introspection, concentration and meditation. Normal sleep will be found to be even more beneficial. Beautiful concepts of what is happening here. We are connecting with the universe. Swamiji has also then talked about a very interesting thing here. He says, de-hypnosis with Yoga Nidra. He says all yoga practices are de-hypnotic. Some modern yoga teachers teach hypnosis or auto-suggestion as part of yoga. This is simply not true. To be true yoga, it must be de-hypnotic. Many similar techniques to those taught here as Yoga Nidra are passed along by modern yoga teachers under the style or title of Yoga Nidra. This was in the late 60s and 70s. What would he say now? Most of these practices must be done while the teacher drones on in a hypnotic voice or a tape recorder is played of hypnotic commands to relax the body or to see lights or to have feelings of wandering around the universe. Some of these techniques do employ relaxation, such as in the Jnana Yoga Kriyas, particularly the 22 body part relaxation technique. Such techniques are more properly called Chetana Nidra or Shushupti Jam Kriya. They are more hypnotic Kriyas. I cannot see that they play a real part in evolutionary Adhyatmika Yoga, the higher yoga path. Very, very interesting thoughts that Swamiji has given. He has also given a few reservations about the use of Yoga Nidra. What I think we'll do is next week we will go through the full practice. Until then, I will share the YouTube video for you to have it. We'll revise it and go through the practice, because this is not something that can be done just in one session. Swamiji says, I do not feel there's any case where you should avoid the Yoga Nidra. Indeed, I have dealt with students and patients who have been long-term insomnics, or the opposite type who need excessive sleep, narcolepsy. I find that most people suffering from insomnia are what is described as sleep hypochondriacs or sleep pedants, who benefit by having their neuroticism removed by practices like Yoga Nidra. Even cases of epilepsy and sleep spasm have been relieved with this technique. Sleep disturbances of a psychic nature may be the stimulus for dreams, nightmares, and other forms of night terrors. Sexual dreams and accompanying nocturnal emissions may also be beneficially eradicated by the Yoga Nidra. During the Yoga Nidra Kriya, some activities similar to night disturbances may arise. I believe that this is the runoff of these problems and must be distinguished from the flexor spasms of the legs observed in sleep, associated with a disease of the pyramidal tracts or nocturnal myoclonus. Another sensation often noted is a sudden start or a swaying or circling of the body, induced by the visualization of the spiral. A similar sort of situation is noted in light sleep, where sensory centers are disturbed to produce isolated phenomena like hearing a sudden sound, a sudden flash of light, or floating upwards or being turned around in sleep. These are probably sensory paroxysms involving the labyrinthine mechanisms of the inner ear. After Yoga Nidra conscious sleep, one may feel so relaxed it is impossible to move. This should not cause any fear and can easily be controlled by simply wiggling the little finger of the right hand. Swamiji talks about wiggling the little finger of the right hand. So he says, if at any point you feel so relaxed you cannot move, don't get afraid about it. Just start to wiggle the little finger of the right hand, and immediately the sensation of paralysis is removed, and normal body activity can once again begin. Sometimes this curious paralytic phenomenon is observed when awaking from normal sleep, when it seems impossible, although awake and conscious and fully oriented, to be able to innervate a single muscle. This is actually what is being asked currently by a question there. Gurlin, I think Swamiji was reading your question and answering here. So basically Swamiji is saying that when that type of feeling is there, very important to wiggle the little finger of the right hand. This is sort of helps you come out, he says. And he says the spell can vanish. This spell of feeling heavy and not able to move can vanish with the slightest cutaneous stimulus, such as the touch of a hand or wiggling the little finger of the right hand. Swamiji has given this as a technique to come out of this if it feels too dense. On occasion, when the counter-clockwise spinning back into the body, return may be into a higher center than where the clockwise spiraling began. So that what happens is, instead of coming into the Manipura, you're ending up someplace else. The return will never be into a lower center. He says, normally when you come back, you may end up, above the solar plexus or even into the heart center. That is what he's saying. If the end of the Yoga Nidra comes into the fourth chakra, the Anahata, the fifth, Vishuddha, or even the Ajna, the same instruction for tightening down should be followed, like doing into the Manipura. So wherever you have come into, if you come into another center, tighten down into that center is what he says. This is rare, but do not be alarmed if it occurs. So a few warnings Swamiji has given us when talking about this. I think this is just an amazing teaching that we have had this morning from Swamiji. And I would like to end with a statement from a very dear friend down under. One of the top psychologists and counselors down in Australia for the past 5 decades. She met Swamiji when Swamiji went down for the first IYTA convention organized by Roma Blair, and John Mumford was there, and Swami Satyananda Saraswati was there and all. And after the convention, Swamiji offered a week-long training. And many of the people at the convention, after meeting Swamiji, you met Swamiji, you fell in love with him. So all of them went to this 1 week training that Swamiji gave post-convention. And in that, there was a lot of the Yoga Nidra, this Yoga Nidra taught by Swamiji. And I remember when I met this very senior person, she is one of the top psychologists and a great yoga teacher also. When I met her down under some years ago, she said, Dr. Ananda, the problem with your father's teachings, she said, the problem with your father's teachings is that they actually work. They do what they are supposed to do. And that scares people. I was taken aback. It was interesting. She said, she told me this story. She said, most people do yoga nidra and, it's just a relaxation technique. You feel good at the end of it and you get up and, I feel good. Like Kaustubh was telling Shailaja and yesterday, everybody just wants this, feel good, love, compassion, high spirits, positivity. They don't want to hit the reality. It's a very, very interesting thing that happens. She said, everybody teaches yoga nidra in such a way that, it's a throwaway thing. And she said, what happens with your father's techniques is they actually do what they're supposed to do. They work. And she said, in this week-long seminar with your father, we did a lot of yoga nidra. And she said, at the end of the seminar, one of the ladies went into such a universal experience, it took her nearly a month to come back to normal. See, this is one of the problems. Because, what happens is that people just want to feel good and go back to normal life. The Yoga Nidra is about you connecting to the universe. And she said it took this person 1 week to come back, 1 month, to come back to her own individuality because it had become such a universal experience. And she said that is the problem. Your father's techniques actually do what they are supposed to do. Yoga Nidra is meant to connect you to that state of Shushupti and the cosmos. Not just relax you and let your heart rate and blood pressure come down. And I have always thought about this statement because are we as a race today really ready for yoga? And I think the fact that we have become plastic human beings is why we have plastic yoga today. Whenever people ask me, Divya asked me during her Global Voices in her rapid fire, modern yoga, and my immediate response is plastic. We have plasticized yoga and made it something it is not. Real yoga is transformative. Real yoga is transformative. It must transform the individual, make you a better person. And a yogi has to be a noble human being. A noble human being is one who understands that they are having the same energy as the universe. They have the same energy as every being on this planet. And then you cannot look a chicken in the eye and eat it again. You cannot think that somebody is different because the color is different, the race is different, they speak a different language. Because you start to embody that universalness in you. Remember, in the Yoga Nidra, you come back that the whole universe has come into you. Every cell in you is vibrating with a universal awareness. How can you say, oh, you are fit to live but not you? You are fit for education but not you. You are... And A noble human being is what a yogi must be. This is the message that my dear Ganesh ji wanted me to give all of you today. And he's sitting here guiding us. And Lord Ganesha is saying, all of you be good yogis. Huh? Be good yogis, be noble human beings. Help others and be strong. Have that courage. Lord Ganesha is within us. Tad Ganeshaya vidmahe vakratundaya demahe. Tanno danti prajodayate. That Om Gang Ganapatena. And as you sing that, Gang Gang Ganapatena mustute aingarini anemugane Gang Gang Ganapati. That is the energy that we want to manifest. May we all manifest that energy within us. Have a wonderful day, and we'll keep exploring what we are exploring day by day, step by step, until that final process manifests in abundance to all of us. Hari Om Tat Sat.